Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Before we begin today's conversation, I want to let you know that in this episode, we discuss disordered eating and recovery. If this is a topic you find triggering, please take care of yourself as you listen and only continue if it feels supportive for your journey today. I want to ask you a question. What happens when yoga is more than just a practice, a hobby, or a pastime? When it becomes a whole way of living? When it starts to consume your thoughts and finds its way into everything that you're doing? Today, on the Finding Harmony podcast, I sit down with Karolina Zakrzewska, someone whose life has been deeply shaped by decades immersed in yoga, in community, as well as healing. Karolina spent 20 years living in India, where she was the manager for many, many years of the well-known Purple Valley Yoga Retreat Center in Goa, and studied closely with Rolf Naujokat, one of his close students, as well as studying under the tutelage of many, many of the senior Ashtanga yoga teachers that visited the Purple Valley Center to teach workshops. In our conversation today, we are not only looking ahead to my upcoming retreat in Tenerife, but we're also going to explore Karolina's personal journey through her own experience with disordered eating and how her personal dedication, how her drive for healing and recovery has informed what she is doing now in her nutritional work and in her whole approach to yoga, food, and lifestyle. With over 25 years of practice and as a nutritionist with a specialization in disordered eating, and with her natural, compassionate, grounded way of meeting others, Karolina is bringing just a beautiful honesty and vulnerability to this dialogue, especially when it comes to the pressures and patterns that we've both have personal experience with and have also witnessed in our beloved Ashtanga yoga world. So this is a rich, heart-opening conversation about yoga, health, and healing, and what it means to truly nourish the body and the mind. So let's begin. Hi, welcome. I'm so pleased you're here with me today, and my beautiful guest, Karolina. Hello, Karolina.
Hello, Harmony.
Okay, you have to say your last name because I will not pronounce it properly.
Zakrzewska. It's Polish.
Thank you. Zakrzewska.
Oh, that was actually an excellent pronunciation.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, you're Polish, but you lived in Sweden for quite a while, and now you're living in England.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And you lived in India for a long time, too.
Yeah. As I was preparing for the podcast with you today, I was actually lying in my bed having a relaxing yoga nidra to calm down my nerves. Yeah. And I was thinking of the time that I spent in India, because I came to India when I was 26, 27, actually.
Wow.
And I left 2 years ago, really, 22.
How many years?
Yeah.
22 years in India?
Yeah. So it's actually for a while. Yeah.
Was that the longest place you've ever lived?
Yes.
That's incredible.
It is.
Was it always in Goa, or did you move around a little?
When I came to India, I came there working for a Scandinavian travel agency by the name of Ving. And I lived in Egypt at that time. And I actually thought that I would stay in Egypt for the rest of my life because I was just really in love with the country and the culture. But then I was asked to go to Goa
Mm-hmm.
to open up an office for the company because I'm quite good in starting up things. And so I did that. I went back to Egypt, and then I was asked again to come back to India to start up a round trip, actually up in the north part of India.
Amazing. So where was that?
The Golden Triangle. India was very new for the Swedish market or for the Scandinavian market. So I would be very much in Rajasthan and Delhi and that area.
Nice.
And when I went up to the northern parts of India, this is when I really fell in love with the country.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there one like particular place or experience that you could remember that drew
No,
you in?
I think that being a quite wild and chaotic person, as I was at that time, somehow the chaos of India suited my personality. I felt a sense of freedom at that time to be out there on my scooter among people in the markets with all the colors and smells. And it was not perfect, but for me, it was perfect.
Yeah, I love that. I think that really resonates for me also.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't sense you as a wild and chaotic person. You
No,
seem like very held together in a very perfect kind of way.
I think that each person has many kind of facets or many kind of sides that are not always visible to everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's good to be a mix.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I definitely think that I'm much less chaotic now at the age of 50 because I'm going to be 50 in 2 months' time. I know
Wow,
it's,
that's amazing.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So many people in my life are turning 50 this
Yeah.
year. So.
No, that's actually, I don't really understand how that happened.
It's pretty weird, the passing of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so you're in India, you're working for this travel agency, you're exploring the north. What draws you into the path of yoga?
So I was 17 when I went to my first yoga class in Sweden, actually, and it was in a basement. And it was a little bit, I can't say that it really caught my attention at that time. It
Mhm.
was a friend of mine, so she was teaching, but somehow it stayed with me.
Yeah.
And when I came to India, I was going to quite a lot of personal stuff before I came to India. And when I came to India, I kind of promised myself that I would change a lot in my life if I would be able to stay in India. And I remember I had my first house in Baga. And in Baga on the beach, I started to practice yoga with a book of Iyengar, kind of Light of Yoga, I think it was. But it was the thin version. Because that too, there's one that is slightly thinner than the other one, which is quite big.
Yeah.
And I would be going down to the beach every morning with my blanket and I would practice yoga. It was horrible to practice on sand, but in my world, it was the perfect place.
Yeah. You probably weren't doing a lot of vinyasas.
No, I was not, I didn't know what the vinyasa was. Actually, I was just
Right.
doing the
Doing like
postures.
different poses and breathing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not even
Yeah.
breathing, I think, really. I think that I was mainly stretching, but it suited me at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 2 years later, I ended up for the first time up in Rishikesh. And there was an ashram, Parmatniketan, I think it's the big ashram over there. And there was an Australian teacher.
Huh.
And she was actually having an Ashtanga retreat for Japanese people.
Wow.
This is how I remember it, but it may have
Yeah.
been a little bit different. But I just remember
Yeah.
that it was a lot of Asian people, and it was this Australian teacher. And I joined the first Ashtanga session, and I injured myself immediately because I was quite
Oh, no.
heavy at that time. I was much heavier than I am right now.
Really?
And yeah, I had been quite ill for a while, and I came to Rishikesh, and I felt, okay, I'm going to heal my body now, and I'm going to heal my mind, and I want to practice yoga. But on this first session of the Ashtanga session, I hurt my shoulder really badly, and then I decided to leave Rishikesh, and I ended up in McLeod with Dalai Lama because he lived at that area, which was actually
Yeah.
also quite good. So I rented a small house, and just next to this house was a school for Tibetan refugees for children.
Yeah.
And there was a teacher by the name of Vijay, and I went to one of his classes, and he had only guided classes. And I was completely hooked immediately. And I stayed with him for a couple of months, and this is basically how I found the Ashtanga practice and the yoga practice. Yeah.
Wow. It's like the Ashtanga was chasing you down. Because it's pretty rare to run into so many Ashtanga classes because it's not that popular a style of yoga.
Yeah. Well, it definitely suited my personality, and I did a teacher training with Vijay. And he had a very specific way of teaching. So he was guiding the Ashtanga session, and it was always the primary series. And in the end of the session, he would take us through a relaxation using his voice. So he would be singing in different kind of levels, which is also very special.
Yeah.
And on Thursdays, he would be having this kind of demonstration when he would be doing handstands and inversions. And he did a handstand on his kind of 3 fingers, floating
Wow.
up. And I was just, oh, I'm going to do that. He was quite amazing. And then in the evenings, he would drink rum.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And he actually still teaches in Arambol.
Really? Yeah. So he came down to Goa too?
Yeah. So he had, I think it was called the Himalayan Yoga Center, actually. Mm-hmm. And he must be quite old right now. So after I met Vijay, I went back to Goa because I was going back to work for the company. And 1-2 weeks later, I just ran into Rolf. I signed up for a workshop at Brahmani Yoga, a place that was actually a part of Purple Valley for a while. Probably you know that.
Yeah, it was like the original Purple Valley. Yeah.
And there was a workshop with Rolf and Marcy. Mm-hmm. And it was like love at the first sight. And I just knew, okay, I'm just staying.
You're like, this is my place. I'm here.
Yeah. And since then, it was just Rolf for me.
Yeah.
You know? So I consider myself, with my yoga journey, I consider Rolf being the beginning really of my yoga journey. Because I went completely back. I was just starting the Ashtanga practice, but Rolf took me through everything that I knew about Ashtanga and yoga. And it was never that I had any form of questions. It was more his presence, his way of teaching.
Yeah, say more about that. I want to know what you remember.
What do I remember from Rolf? Firstly, I think that Rolf was the reason for me to stay in India for such a long time. I don't think that I would have stayed in India for so many years without Rolf. After I met Rolf, I started to adapt my whole life to the practice and to Rolf, to the early morning hours when I would be practicing with him in Anjuna. Yeah, it was just a very specific relationship, very special actually. Yeah.
What was he like when he was teaching? What was it that kind of kept bringing you into that space?
For me, Rolf was very quiet and very understanding. He was a very humble man. The way I saw Rolf was in a very humble way. He was always giving without wanting anything back. And he was always sharing.
Yeah.
But he was also a human. With the Marcy, there were many kind of different situations. I never saw him as some form of wonder god or like super yoga guru. He was more of a guide.
Yeah, a special guide for sure. I always felt that about Rolf, that he had tasted reality. You know, he kicked down the door, as he would have said.
Yeah. I think that some of the most special moments with Rolf was actually when I would be, because after I met Rolf, I was staying in India for as much as I could. So I would not be going back to Europe in the monsoon. I would just stay in India and stay in Goa to practice with Rolf. And many times it would only be me and perhaps one more student, because nobody was traveling to India in the monsoon during that time. So those moments were also very special. We would be coming to the shala on the rooftop very early in the morning, and Rolf would be practicing, and then we would start to practice. And it was very, very, very special.
Yeah, those are special times.
Yeah,
precious. And so at what point did you start working for Purple Valley, the retreat center?
Yes, so what happened was that I stayed with Rolf for approximately 8 years. So it's a quite long time, actually. And during that time, I stopped working for the Scandinavian travel agency. And I started to work for a Goan hotel owner because we were the same age. And he was opening up hotels specifically for the Scandinavian market. So I was working together with him for a while. But eventually I felt that I needed to move forward, and I decided to move back to Sweden, actually. I decided to leave India and move back to Sweden. But before that, I went to Mysore.
Okay,
I wanted to feel the Mysore feeling.
Yeah, you've been hearing about it.
Yeah, everyone was talking about Mysore, but I was completely in love with Rolf and with the practice with Rolf, and I didn't feel that I needed to really discover any new places. But since Mysore was the origin of Ashtanga yoga, I decided to go. And when I was in Mysore, a friend of mine, she gave me a call and she told me that Purple Valley is looking for director. And my biggest dream was to have a yoga place, a retreat place where I could practice with all the most famous yoga teachers. I never wanted to teach. And this is what happened, basically. I came to Purple Valley,
Wow.
I met Hernan, and then I started to work for them.
That's
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, you were totally suited for the role, for the position, and you got your dream.
exactly. But the funny thing is and I remember when me and Hernan, the owner of Purple Valley, agreed about me working as a director over there. And I felt, oh my God, I'm just going to practice yoga the whole day. I'm going to practice yoga in the morning and I'm going to join all the afternoon workshops and it will be just fantastic. And I got such an yoga overdose, like practice overdose when you practice too much.
Yes.
Basically, that was what happened actually after a couple of months. And I very much and very fast realized that the practice actually started to consume me more than giving me energy.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't
Yeah.
it? How we think it would be really wonderful to just practice yoga all day long. And I hear that a lot from clients. Sometimes they think, oh, if I could just give up my job and practice yoga
Yeah.
all day long. And I think, yeah, it wouldn't work actually, because something in you feels like this is too much. It's like if you sit and binge Netflix for 3 days, but you're like watching a series or something, and maybe you like have the long weekend and you just sit around and watch TV all the time. You get sick of it. You're like, I wanted to go do something different. And it's no different with yoga in a weird way. Like your body, your mind, you're like, yeah, I kind of want to see what else is going on in the world. I don't just want to be here stretching all day long.
Yeah. But Rolf said that also about Ashtanga practitioners that sometimes, because he would see so many people, he would see so many students that were coming and going. And I remember once there was a student that came and he had this amazing practice and he would be practicing for, I don't know, like 3-4 hours. His practice was just, this really long practice. And Rolf was just standing next to me one day. He just said, too much fire. He just need to burn it. And I think that I was a little bit in the same space too when I came to Purple Valley, this kind of overexcitement with too much fire in me. And actually that becomes quite negative.
Yeah, it's interesting that quality. I love to think about that quality of fire. It reminds me of a conversation I was having a little bit with Russell about this like genetic tendency in my family to overdo things. And I said, I don't think it's like a tendency, like nobody's trying to overdo things. It's more about a feeling of stamina, of like just not wanting to leave the thing that you're in.
Mm.
And so like when you're doing it, you just are like, I just want to stay here. And so you keep doing the thing to keep you in that space. And it turns out to be like addiction as well.
And I think that's very typical for many Ashtanga practitioners, that there is a kind of form of addictive approach to the practice initially. And I would say that one of the good thing with turning 50, actually, or become slightly older is perhaps that I feel that there is a little bit more of balance in my life when it comes to everything, approach to the yoga practice, approach to relationships, approach to food. I'm not sure if I'm there with work yet because I am very passionate about what I'm doing. And I think that's also one thing that, when you are passionate about everything that you do, sometimes it's very difficult to balance yourself.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's like that quality of fire, right? That passion, like Rajas, that tendency just like builds and
Yeah.
builds and builds, and you get so into it and so excited, and it draws you in deeper and deeper. And so it's such a fascinating thing to think about these tendencies in us as these elements. And so wise, of course, of Rolf to frame it that way too. And yeah, and the fire has the power to purify, to transform, but then also to consume as well. So it's like a very challenging element to work with sometimes, I think. And I think a lot of Ashtanga practitioners have this fire because it requires this sort of determination and drive and energy to come into the practice in the first place. And then I think the practice itself feeds the fire too in some way.
Yeah, for sure.
You were at Purple Valley for how many years? I mean, you're still there.
Yeah. I think I said that to Hernan because we speak quite frequently that I feel that I will just be connected to Purple Valley for as long as Purple Valley exists, basically, because I just love the teachers and I still love the practice. And I really love what Purple Valley stands for. I came to Purple Valley in 2011 or 2012, something like this. And for me, when I started to work with Purple Valley, I really wanted to create an educational center, not only a place where people could go for a yoga holiday, but where dedicated practitioners or students new to yoga could come and learn from the best teachers in the world. That's why we also created the YouTube channel together with my friend Nick.
Yeah,
That was a part of it. And I think that Purple Valley does have a quite important place in the Ashtanga community. And for me, I just feel very passionate about it, and I just wanted to continue. It's not always easy to run a yoga retreat because it's not always easy to get the students, to be able to pay all the salaries and all the bills. But for as long as it works, then, it works.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice too that you're the main figure, the main manager of it, but also it's not riding on your capital, which is a very nice place to be for you.
Yeah. And I also think that with Purple Valley in Goa, because now we have two different kind of centers. We have one center in Tenerife, which we opened in 2021, actually. So I will come back to that. But then we have the center in Goa. And the Indian staff that have worked with us in Goa, they have actually been there, many of them, since Purple Valley opened in 2003. So Purple Valley has been existing for a while now. And in case that center would close, it will definitely be quite difficult for many of them to find something else.
Yeah, 22 years. That's a long time.
Yeah. So the good thing with Purple Valley in Goa now is that we are trying to keep it open throughout the year.
Oh, yeah,
so
nice.
This year we actually had a Mysore program together with a teacher from Barcelona. Her name is Laya.
Okay, yeah.
So it was actually very successful. So hopefully this will continue next year. And at the same time, we're also slowly starting to develop an Ayurvedic center in the monsoon time. So we already have a small Ayurvedic center, but I'll focus a little bit more on Panchakarma and Ayurvedic treatments because it's the perfect time in the monsoon time. So hopefully that will work out quite well.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Sparking ideas for me. So I'm just going to put those on the back shelf. That's the problem when you have so much fire. Every time you hear about something, a little spark gets lit and it starts to grow and you're like, oh, more things.
Exactly. Yeah, because the monsoon season is beautiful in Goa.
Very wet though, I remember.
Yeah, because you have been there as well.
Yeah, very rainy, but yeah, beautiful, like a very special place, very quiet time.
Yeah.
Good for going in.
Exactly. Good for cleansing.
Yes, good for cleansing. Okay, I'm going to put that idea to the side and continue talking about other things.
Yeah. So just to mention that Purple Valley that we have in Tenerife, so we opened that during quite complicated time.
Yeah, because in COVID, I remember basically Purple Valley had to shut down and there was no travel. And we were doing some fundraising for Purple Valley at that time too, so that you could continue to pay the staff because they weren't getting salaries.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was quite a difficult time.
Yeah, it was a quite dramatic time actually. And the help that we received from the community was amazing. It actually helped us to buy food for the Purple Valley staff and their families. So we're talking about 150 people, something like that. It's a lot of people. So we were buying food for them every week. I mean, not like super fancy food, but dal and rice and tomato and onion, kind of basic food products. So it was of extreme help.
Yeah.
All the fundraising that we did at that time. And during this particular time, we opened up Purple Valley in Tenerife because the owner of Purple Valley, Hernan, he's from Tenerife. And initially, me and Hernan spoke about opening up something in the Canarian Islands, but it never happened until it had to happen.
Yeah, until the timing was forced.
Exactly. So Hernan's sister, Lucretia, whom you also know, she got in touch with Hernan and she said that I have found this really nice place in Tenerife. You have to go and see it. So Hernan went to see it. And a few weeks later, I came. Initially, I was like, oh my God, I'm not really sure if this will work.
What was it about the center that you were sort of taken aback by?
I had never been in Tenerife. And when I arrived in Tenerife, firstly, the part where the center is situated is in the southern part of Tenerife. You have to pass by Playa Las Americas and Los Cristianos, and those places are quite touristic.
Yeah, it's a little, I don't know, I always get like a Mad Max kind of vibe. Yeah. But it's interesting because Goa also has like a strange Mad Max kind of vibe in a lot of areas. So.
But then the center was not very well kept, actually, the first time when we came there. When it comes to the furniture, there was no kitchen. There were many things that were missing. And it was very chaotic the first year when we opened up. This is a completely different podcast because probably it would take hours to talk about that. But eventually it worked out quite well. And now our way of working together with the current owner, Sujata, is fantastic. And we are on the same page. So much has improved. And the center is really, I love it.
Yeah.
Like a little
Yeah.
paradise in the very unpolished island of Tenerife. Because the southern part of Tenerife is quite unpolished, actually. There is something wild about the energy.
Yeah, there really is. But then you go into Fincan Roundhouse.
That's the original name of the retreat.
Oh.
When the retreat was built by Dennis, who passed away, it was last year in June. He was 93 years old and he came to Tenerife in the 70s, fell in love with the island. He was an architect. He was supposed to be a part of one of the first hotels that was supposed to be built at the island. But then there was a financial crisis. So the hotel never happened, but he stayed. And for me, when I look at the center and the buildings and what he has created, it's almost like his creativity has been a form of channeling because it's just so unusual. Just so unusual what he has created. It's a piece of art, really.
It is. That's what I felt my first time there, which I guess was 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Just going into that, it was like a secret garden. It was like exactly what I imagined, like when I was a child, like opening up that door into the secret garden would look like, with all of these magical little buildings, all built out of stone and little Buddhas and I don't know, fairy dust everywhere and flowers. And it feels I agree. It feels very channeled, very like a mystical little space that's holding this energy and this vibration. And people always ask me, like, what's my favorite retreat center? And I'm always like, I really love Tenerife because it has this like this little quality to it. And I have a really, I don't know if it's a bad tendency, but I just like to go there and stay there. Like I'm in the bubble.
Yeah, and
I don't want to leave.
This is what I notice with many of the students that are coming and also the teachers, that they come and they stay and they just don't leave the center. Some of them may wander down to the beach to have a little swim.
Yeah, once in a while it's nice to go into the ocean.
It's just extremely peaceful.
It's so peaceful and it feels really like rejuvenating and renewing for your energy and your spirit, and like a really beautiful way to go inside yourself. And in the morning, I love that, practicing and having the birds coming up and just waking up, and you can just, I don't know, you're really like connected to nature in a special kind of way.
Yeah, it's quite different from the center in Goa, because in Goa we have 30 Indian staff, but in Tenerife we are only 6-7 people working together doing everything.
Yeah, and it's smaller too. It's like a much smaller kind of contained environment, whereas Goa is quite large.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of space.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm going to be back there soon in January. I came and did 1 week, and then I did 2 weeks, and then I did 1 week, and now I'm doing 2 weeks again. So I guess we're testing things out. But last year, it was the first time I did at the beginning of January, and it was a really beautiful way to start the year, not just for myself, but all of the students were like, please do it again at the beginning of the year. We want to start our year this way. So that's why we've put 2 weeks in this time.
Yes, we have 2 weeks this year. So there's the first week is called Clearing the Path, Purpose, Practice, and Presence. And then we have the second week, which is Embodying Your Practice from Intention to Transformation.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some space for spinal energetics. Everyone was thrilled about that last time, and some breath work and all the things. The yoga, the Mysore, pranayama, chanting, meditation.
Exactly.
Yoga Nidra. It's like a full program. So yeah, it's a beautiful way, I think, to really set your intention for the year. And for me, it felt like a very powerful time of manifestation. You know, I'm seeing things that I brought into my intention last year, like now starting to come up. And that's amazing, right? Yeah. When you like set that intention and you see that through line just over halfway through the year, you're like, oh, there's that thing that I was waiting for.
Yeah. It's a beautiful start to the year, actually. And you can come for 1 week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, they'll build on each other, but they're also totally independent as well. They're not the same. You'll never get a repeat with me. I don't know. I feel like that's something I need to work on.
Yeah, no, you're actually, I think that you're the most creative teacher that we are having when it comes to changing the content of the retreats, actually. There's always something new.
I really struggle with keeping it the same.
But it's good to be innovative.
Yeah. As I evolve, as I continue to grow, I always bring that into what I'm doing. So it's never the same because we're never the same, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so then speaking of never the same, I want to talk about you and the way that you've changed and grown, because when we first met, you were very much into the yoga and just fully immersed and wanting to learn as much as you could and practice as much as you could, and then managing all of the retreats and the teachers and learning from every, I don't know, teacher, I think, that has a name out there in the Ashtanga world, basically. So I have a couple questions. First, let's just go with that one, and then let's talk about how you've shifted what you're doing a little bit now. Of course, you love Rolf because he was your teacher and he's your heart. But out of all the teachers, what would you say has stuck with you, or what stuck out?
That's a very good question, actually. I think that firstly, when I came to Purple Valley, the fact that I had been practicing with Rolf for such a long time, I had already a quite solid foundation in my practice, which I think was very helpful when I came to Purple Valley. Because I do think that when you practice with so many teachers, it does create a confusion in case you are very new to the practice, because though each one of the teacher is coming from the same base on the same tree, kind of the same trunk, they are all different branches and everyone will be coming with kind of their own ideas. So what happened when I was at Purple Valley was that each time we had a new teacher, I would adapt my practice to the teacher and try out the different inputs that the teacher would suggest. And a lot of teachers had very strong opinions. To be honest with you, I think that when you are in the shala, when you are practicing, then you notice all of that. But eventually, when the teacher leaves, what actually sticks with you or what stays with you is what you can adapt to the practice, what you can incorporate into the practice. Because in the end, the practice is your individual practice and should support you where you are in your development as a human being, both from a spiritual perspective and also from a physical perspective. So I think that one of the most interesting things with Ashtanga and the Ashtanga practice has been to start quite early in life and then move through various stages in life, because you have been able to observe how the body has been changing, how your mind has been changing.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the most interesting teachers to practice with have actually been the teachers that have themselves moved through various stages, because they can actually understand and relate both to the human mind and also to the body in a completely different way than a teacher that is just starting to teach. So it has been very interesting to practice with all the teachers in the shala, for sure.
I mean, I'm hearing also as a student, you found it was very important to have time for your own practice also, without input from a teacher, so that you could integrate or find out what was resonating for you or what felt natural for your body.
Yeah, but that would happen after Purple Valley closed each season. There was just no time to integrate really anything of what the teachers had said, because Purple Valley has always been having the retreats back to back. So you shifted from one teacher to another. And actually the best times were when we had a teacher that would be staying for a month. And then you actually had the time to actually feel into what they're suggesting we should do.
Yeah, you deepen the learning then with the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any favorite teachers? I'm so curious.
Favorite teachers? I mean, depends on what you wanted to learn. Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
Because you have teachers, and I have to be a little bit diplomatic here.
Yeah, of course.
You have teachers that are extremely good at the technical part of the practice, in case you wanted to focus on developing little details from a technical perspective. And you had teachers that would be focusing more on philosophy, for example. We had those teachers coming. For example, Dina, I always have loved her philosophy sessions. I knew that I would have to plan my days so I could participate in the afternoon workshops. Because after a while, when you have been at Purple Valley for a while, you don't really need to go through how you are doing a Trikonasana again.
Exactly. The break down the asanas and learn all the intricacies and the minutia of the technical part.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what I have really been appreciating is when we have been having teachers that have been taking under consideration the fact that not all students are on the same level. So like for example, Laruga would be having afternoon sessions that would be for students that are completely new to yoga, but she would also be having workshops for students that have been practicing for a while already, because then they have a slightly different understanding of the body. And I
Hmm.
think that that's been also a really good way of teaching actually in a yoga retreat.
Yeah, because you really need different things for different spaces of practice, I guess.
And I have been appreciating the fact that many of the teachers that have been coming have also been having different kind of, not only an Ashtanga approach, many of them have been having an Iyengar background as well.
Yeah.
And it has been really nice to be able to incorporate that part of the practice as well with alignment.
Yeah, that's nice. And what I've noticed about practicing with different teachers, I always feel like they're like a different flavor.
Yeah,
I don't know. They always come out as flavors for me.
true.
And so some teachers, I'm like, oh, I really love this flavor. I can like really be in this space. I love the energy here. I love like the approach. And then there's other teachers that I sort of am just like, yeah, not my flavor.
Yeah, for sure. I
Not
mean,
on that one.
with some people, you just connect on a different level.
Yeah.
And that's also nice.
Yeah, it's like nothing you can really necessarily like say because like other people love it. And you're like, yeah, okay, go try. I don't know. You don't know until you taste. So after working at Purple Valley and being around all these yoga students and being a yoga student yourself, what are some of the patterns or things that you noticed about the Ashtanga community? I don't know, just like some of the things that has taken you into the work that you're doing now. Like, what did you notice that sort of you were like, this seems like it's a problem for a lot of practitioners, and I want to explore how to help people with this?
Yes, I don't think that it is really related, to the patterns that I have discovered in the Ashtanga community.
Okay.
I was kind of more observant because I was myself going through eating disorders. So basically, my current work as a nutritionist in the field of dysfunctional eating and eating disorders. So I'm going to go back a little bit in time to give a little bit of a history when it comes to that. So I was 12 when I developed a quite severe eating disorder. I had developed anorexia. At that time, it was not very well known yet, actually. It took a few years and the anorexia evolved into bulimia. And I lived with bulimia for my whole adult life, actually. Eventually, it became just a part of me. And I never thought that I would be able to actually live a life without an eating disorder. Because I think that after a while, when you have been living with a specific condition or when you have been living with a particular habit, it becomes so normalized. So it just becomes a part of you.
Yeah. And how many years was this condition lasting?
I was diagnosed with anorexia, I think I was around 12. And I don't have too much of memory from that particular period. I think because knowing more about the condition and the disease now, I think that my brain was in such a bad shape and that my memory went completely. And we know today that people that are severely anorectic, that are actually that the brain goes through a brain atrophy, the same kind of that in Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
It can recover. It will recover in case you have not been ill for too long, fortunately.
Yeah.
But for some people,
Yeah.
it never happens. But at the age of 15, I had already developed bulimia. And at the age of 42, actually, so that's 8 years ago, was when I managed to, there was something that shifted in me. And I was already working at Purple Valley. I was 42, and something shifted in me. And I kind of felt that there must be a possibility for me to become free from this eating disorder. I never saw it really like an eating disorder either because I had been living with it for such a long time. But coming towards perimenopause and menopause, I kind of felt that I actually really wanted to support my body.
Yeah.
I wanted to be healthy. And I knew that going through perimenopause and menopause would become extremely complicated for me in case I would be fixating on food and weight. I think that that was actually one of the reasons for me to start to deal actually with the bulimia, which was very challenging initially. And it was really challenging because When you have been living with a condition where you are binging and when you are purging, where there's always a kind of behavior that is compensating for what you have eaten. And also when you have been living actually in a very dishonest way with your family and also with your friends, because nobody really knew about what I was going through. It was all very hidden. Yeah, I think that it became one of the reasons for why it became so extremely challenging for me actually to kind of start to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The shame of
Yeah.
the secrecy feeds the cycle.
And I think that now, when we talk about it, I get slightly dizzy. And it's kind of funny because I think that I never planned when I started to study nutrition. I started to study nutrition when I was 40, so approximately the same time. But I was never thinking of working within the eating disorder field, actually, or dysfunctional eating. It happened because other things that happened in my life, actually. I actually don't know where I wanted to go with this now.
You were starting to study nutrition,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you were starting to study nutrition because you were thinking, I want to learn how to support myself in a healthy way through food that's more balanced, and kind of using this as an avenue to bring healing, like a deeper type of healing for yourself.
Yeah, definitely the nutrition helped me a lot. And definitely nutrition was a part of the healing process as well. And I think that one of the reasons that I started to study nutrition on my way to heal, to kind of heal from the bulimia or to heal from the eating disorders, was also the fact that I, many years before, actually was actually trying to get well. And a friend of mine, she took me to an eating disorder center in Sweden, and I met a dietitian. And she told me about all these physicalities that would be happening with my body once I start to eat. Like physical symptoms and things that I would be going through as my body is recovering. Because without that knowledge from her, I would never have managed to do what I did when I started studying nutrition now, when I kind of started my way to heal from the eating disorder, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did your healing journey progress? You just started studying nutrition, and then what moved you more into the field of realizing you wanted to work with helping other people?
I knew that I wanted to help other people to be able to make informed decisions about their own health, because there's just so much that we can do ourselves when it comes to our health through nutrition and through lifestyle changes. So I knew that I wanted to do this. But a person in my life that was very, very close to me, she fell very ill in an eating disorder. And I kind of felt that to be able to help her, I really needed to be honest and true with myself as well and with my family, and kind of let them know what I have been going through. And this whole thing kind of led me into the field of eating disorders and dysfunctional eating, actually. And I think that the most difficult thing in the process of healing, and this is what I wanted to say before, actually, before I lost my thread because I got so nervous, was the fact that you really need to be radically honest with yourself
Yeah.
when it comes to healing. And to be radically honest, this kind of radical honesty is very difficult, actually. And it's very difficult towards yourself. And it's also very difficult towards the people that you love.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because we have so many protective mechanisms up.
Absolutely.
It's so hard to be vulnerable, and radical honesty is really about vulnerability.
And also the fact that I feel that eating disorders actually, this is one of the reasons that I have started to talk a little bit more about it, because it was very difficult for me to mention to the community actually that I have been going through this, that I have been living with this condition for such a long time. Because working at Purple Valley, you are working in this environment where everyone is supposed to be super healthy, and you are eating healthy food and you are practicing yoga, but actually the director of Purple Valley is living with a lifelong eating disorder that she has been having, since she was 15. So it was very difficult to actually come out with this information, because I felt very much ashamed actually about the fact that I had not been honest. It was one thing. And I think that in case you have not been living with an eating disorder, you cannot really relate to it either. It's very difficult to relate to it. Nobody will really understand how it is to live with a constant food noise and constant food obsession. And each time that you have been eating, you have to kind of plan where you go to kind of compensate for your, whatever you have been eating. Today, it's much easier to say that, okay, I have been addicted to amphetamines for the past 10 years than to say I have actually been living with bulimia or with binge eating.
Yeah, it's true. It's very difficult, as you say, for people to really understand. I was listening to someone speak about food addiction in a very interesting way, and whether this is bulimia, anorexia, overeating, undereating, or just orthorexia or any kind of food obsession. It was interesting because it is like a drug.
It is.
So much. Because when you're addicted to a drug, you hate the thing. Like you kind of hate it, but you also really love it. And so it's like this weird dichotomy of like, you feel driven to do it because of this like compulsion, this sort of this love for it. But at the same time, you hate that you're doing it because it creates such shame and self-loathing and all of the things, right? And so it's this really strange kind of relationship to yourself and to the thing, whether it's alcohol or heroin or food.
True.
And it's so hard for people, I think, to understand that cycle because it's food. And if you've never had this relationship with food where you love it because we love it.
Yes, I'm a food lover, yeah.
Of course, right?
Yeah.
Because there's this compulsion to it, but then you also have this like very complicated relationship to it where it makes you hate yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's like very interesting, but it's the same kind of or a similar mechanism that people experience when they're addicted to a substance. Absolutely. As well.
But what I noticed in my own behavior is because I also have a background in substance use, long-term substance use, that I went from being anorectic to bulimic to using amphetamines for a very long period of time. And as I stopped using amphetamines, the eating disorder took actually the place of the drug. Yeah. So it has been a process from being 12 and going through those various kind of conditions and states in life till yoga as well, because I think that the yoga practice, when I met Rolf, was a way for me to heal from the substance use, but it basically took the place of the substance together with the food addiction. But the behavior was actually completely the same.
Yeah, the pattern.
Yeah, the pattern was the same. And it took me, I would say, from when I was 42 till now, with small steps, really learn how to observe my patterns and my behaviors. And this has been extremely interesting, actually. And I think that the yoga practice has actually helped me in developing the skill of observation.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that I would have been able to do it without the practice. But I remember that me and Kathy, perhaps you remember Kathy, the guest manager that we had from Canada.
Yeah.
Me and Kathy had this discussion about it once. And she said that it's definitely all about the mindset. What is your mindset when you're practicing yoga? What is the mindset when you're eating? And eventually you need to let go of the obsessive mindset that you may be having towards your work or towards the yoga practice or towards food. And I think that definitely the mindset is just so extremely important. Where can we find the balance and the skill of observation and the mindset?
Yeah. I think there's like mindset, but also there's an emotional component, like you said. And it is connected to that radical honesty that you were speaking to, which is really getting down into the vulnerability part and into the emotional component of it and into, that space that you don't want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be free to be able to speak.
Yeah.
And that's also really essential for the healing.
Absolutely.
Because it's bringing all the parts of ourselves back together.
Yeah.
Because I think that pattern is really about like rejecting some piece of ourselves. And that piece might be different for different people, but it's like a definite kind of rejection of something. And so starting to like heal that relationship to ourselves is really, I think, the medicine.
Absolutely. Yeah. But what I wanted to mention also, because you mentioned about what I noticed when I was working at Purple Valley, when it comes also perhaps to dysfunctional eating, is that definitely a lot of individuals within our community are struggling with it as well. And each time we had a girl, because we had mainly females that have been coming, to Purple Valley, but definitely mainly girls or young women that have been having some form of dysfunctional eating. So each time I remember that we have been having young women coming to Purple Valley with like a severe restrictive disorder. Each time, all of them have actually ended up at the hospital because the practice has been so tough on the body and also the climate, and
Yeah.
without a single exception.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Do you think it's like electrolyte imbalance, dehydration?
I think that the Ashtanga practice can be very good for some people, actually for majority of us, but for some people it can be very, very, very tough on the body in case you are restrictive. And also in like environment like in India, it's very difficult. When
Yeah.
you come into the heat and you are sweating and you're not drinking and you're not eating.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something very interesting that Patabi Joyce, when I was practicing with him in Mysore, once in a while there'd be somebody who was clearly anorexic. And I remember there was one girl who was there in the practice room, it was the whole room. And he came up to her and he was backbending her. And she came up from backbends. And then he just started yelling at her, like very loudly. The whole room could hear. And he's like, "Why are you not eating? Why not eating? You must eat."
Yeah.
And he's just like yelling at her, like in a very forceful kind of way. I mean, she's like crying. It was like a whole scene.
Yeah.
And then he like gave her kind of like the healing balm. It's okay. And Lord Fold, like this. But it was like right after her back bends, he was just like holding her and like shouting at her. And we were also like, whoa. But I think it was the medicine she needed.
Yeah.
Like he was really bringing out to the surface, like exposing what was thought to be hidden or in the darkness, but it was obviously not hidden to anybody. But bringing it into the light and exposing it in front of everyone. And for her, I don't know if it was exactly healing at that time, but I did meet her later and she said it changed her life.
Yeah. Well, each time we have been having girls coming to Purple Valley, which have been going through anorexia, I have actually been approaching them and I've been telling them, okay, I can see what you are going through. This will be a very complicated time for you at Purple Valley. So you probably need to adapt your practice and, kind of really bringing it up to the surface so they would know that I know what they are going through. Because you see it when you have been living with it yourself. You can just kind of see what a person is going through. You can relate to it.
Totally.
And I also, like this year, for example, I just wanted to mention that this year I was thing at Nurse and Yoga Festival with Alex. And I actually had a talk about yoga and eating disorders. I didn't know if anyone would come, actually.
Yeah.
But I had quite many people that came, and it became a quite beautiful way of actually sharing because there were so many that could relate to what I was talking about. And it's quite comforting, that you are not alone in it. And I think that this is also one of the reasons that I really chose to work with this in the field of dysfunctional eating, because I do believe that if I have been going through this for my whole life, almost, I cannot be the only person in the world that is going through the same kind of situation. There are others that are quietly, I'm not always saying suffering, but perhaps there are others that are going through exactly the same kind of situation. And I want them to know that there is actually a possibility to change and there is a possibility to improve your life. And even if you are not reaching full kind of recovery from your dysfunctional eating, you can definitely change and improve the quality of life. And I think it's really important to kind of keep this in mind because when you have lived with bulimia for such a long time, it just takes time. Change will not happen overnight.
Yeah. But how powerful to have somebody who can walk beside you.
Yeah.
And like you say, you're not alone. There's other people who have walked the path before you and can help guide and be there as support. That's beautiful. When somebody comes to you and they want your help, maybe they're struggling with an eating disorder or they suspect they might be, or they definitely know they are. How do you work with them? What are some of the things that you do?
First, I think it's important to say that I don't work with individuals that are going through there are various kind of eating disorders. You have individuals that are going through very restrictive eating disorders like anorexia, with whom I would not work with because I just don't have the skills. They need to have medical help as well. Now I have only been working with women, actually, though we know that eating disorders are increasing within the male community as well.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when women come to me, they come to me because they have already started the road of recovery. And many of them are very afraid of falling back into habitual patterns. So we look at their patterns that they're going through, the habits that they're having. We very much look at the foods. We look at triggering foods. We look at fear foods. And then we look at how to incorporate all these foods into our daily life. And I use a lot of mindfulness as well. So we
Yeah.
use a lot of mindfulness techniques and observation and meditation and basically creating space for emotions as well. So
Yeah.
it's very different from person to person how I work with them.
Mm-hmm. One of the tendencies that I've noticed even in myself as far as being someone who's recovered from an eating
Yeah.
disorder is I always eat very quickly,
Yeah.
especially when I'm not paying attention at a retreat where I eat very slowly.
Yeah.
Often I just eat quickly. And it's like this love-hate thing with the
Mm.
food. You love it, but you also kind of like don't want to like be in the experience of it. I don't know. There's something weird,
Yeah.
not weird, but like interesting psychologically going on with this fast eating. And when you slow it down, it like changes your nervous system a little bit and how you are with the food and the choices you even make around food, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I work very different with different clients. I do not only work with clients that are having dysfunctional eating or eating disorders. I have clients that are not going through any form of dysfunctional eating. So
Yeah.
in their case, it's very often about substituting and replacing and removing certain kind of foods because they want to reach their health goals.
Right. So maybe they want to like lose
Yeah,
weight.
let's say they want to lose weight or they want to become healthy, and I have women that are going through menopause or perimenopause, and what kind of changes
Yeah.
can they do to their diet and their lifestyle to kind of support healthy aging?
Yeah, that's a huge one. And I think that's another space that we could talk about briefly because for me, I also noticed being like vegetarian or vegan for so many years, again, since I was in early 20s and then reaching 45, all of a sudden your body totally is like, I can't do this anymore. It's like you're gaining weight, you have aches and pains everywhere, you feel terrible. I went to a functional medicine doctor and he's like, all of your cell walls have no like protein holding them
Mm.
together. So you're having leaky gut, you're having massive inflammation, you're having all these histamine
Yeah.
responses coming up. So he's like, you need to eat some kind of protein, like animal protein. And I was like, no.
Mm.
But talk about having this again, like you see this tendency to be so preferential to a certain style of eating and so rigid and rigorous to it. And that was again another kind of, I don't know, threshold for me to be like, okay, I'm going to try fish.
But actually, being vegan and being vegetarian is very often linked, to developing. I'm not saying that everyone is going to develop
Yeah.
an eating disorder when they're vegan or vegetarian. It's not like that. But in case you are a parent and you have a disorder history in your family and your daughter or your son are planning on becoming vegan and vegetarians while they're going through
Mhm.
puberty, you should be a little bit careful because it's actually one of the first signs that you're developing an eating disorder.
Yep. I could raise my hand to that.
Myself as well, actually. Myself as well.
I became vegetarian at 13 years old.
And I became vegetarian and vegan at the same time. But what I wanted to say there is that I have one way of working with females that are going through various kind of changes due to perimenopause and menopause. But then when I work with a person that is having dysfunctional eating, restrictive eating, or bulimia, it's more about how can we actually incorporate all these foods that we usually take away from other people, and how can you actually eat this biscuit or how can you eat the chocolate without running 10 kilometers or finding a place where you can throw up or you take your laxatives. So it's two very different ways of working. So
Yeah.
working with a person that is having dysfunctional eating is that first we are kind of adding on foods, making sure that you're comfortable with your trigger foods and your fear foods. And then slowly we actually do want to replace those foods because some foods are actually not really meant to be eaten.
Yeah, there's lots of foods like
Yeah, they
that.
are like our food industry today. It's quite horrible what we have done with the food. And a quite interesting thing related to that is actually, so there is a doctor, his name is Christopher Fairburn, And he's kind of the pioneers in eating disorder research. So in the 70s, he was a psychiatrist and he had a client, a female client, who had this kind of really unusual behavior. She was eating and throwing up. And he had never seen that before. And that was in mid 70s. So he put an ad in the paper in Vogue where he was looking for other individuals with kind of similar symptoms. And he didn't think that he would get any response. He was flooded with letters from women that were actually going through the same kind of bulimic patterns. And this is when they discovered, this is basically what they kind of named bulimia. And I definitely think that it is related to the food industry, to the way that food has been composed, with high fats and sugars. And somehow it is satisfying a kind of piece of our brain, just like addiction does.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of interesting things going on multiple levels. Yeah. But part of my inclination is also that there's a spiritual component to it. I don't know if I can fully form this sense, but for myself, it felt maybe like a pullback, not when I was in it, of course, but now reflecting back based on other experiences that I've had in life, it feels like it was trying to connect me to spirit. And when I felt disconnected from like my true self or my spiritual self, that's when it was happening. And it was like actually trying to connect me back to spirit, back to self, back into like alignment with self. And so, because I feel like all of these things that we do are never actually, they're always trying to help us. And we don't know how to get there. We're trying to help ourselves get back into balance, back into alignment, back into connection with God or love or our highest self, whatever you want to call that. And I feel like there's something very spiritual about eating disorders, actually, and about disordered eating. And I think that's also maybe why we see them in the Ashtanga community so much, is that there's this sort of, I don't know, this energy rising, and we don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
And so we try to control it in all these ways.
I think that I understand what you mean, actually. It's kind of interesting that you mention it, because in case you look at the history of anorexia, I don't know if you have read about it, but the earliest cases of anorexia, like from 1200 or even before, and it has always been related to asceticism or to usually females that are not eating to come closer to God.
Yeah. There's a deeply spiritual component.
I would say that the anorexia is perhaps very much more relating to what you're talking about, but bulimia is something completely different.
Yeah, it's like the right pull, but the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because there's something, especially when you look at yogic practices like Vaman or some of these kriyas that are really about clearing the channels and clearing Sushumna. There's a key there around how we're clearing the channels and how we're clearing Sushumna and how we're eliminating the junk that we don't need. And so the pull is in the right direction, but it's done totally the wrong way.
I understand what you mean. It's almost like you are eating to suppress or to bring something up, and then you're bringing it up to release and eliminate. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a natural process and one that's helpful for spiritual evolution, even in a way, but not that way. Like not where you're trying to suppress and then release, right?
Interesting. I have to sit with it.
That's for you. You can meditate on that.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah. I'm so excited about this work you're doing. I think it's so valuable for the world and for our community as well, and especially for women, and especially as we're aging, because even just like myself, knowing how challenging it is to change your diet, even when it is helpful for you.
Yeah.
Like to see, oh, I need to see this type of food, like meat in this case, as medicine. Like, how can I see this as medicine, you know? And breaking some of those habits and the attachments even, right? The identities of how we identify. We get very identified with our diet and with food. And food is love, and food is like all of these things to us, right? It's how we're nourishing ourselves, how we comfort ourselves, how we celebrate. And so it's so deep. It's such a deep tool to work with. And I think that you're in the perfect position to really help people understand their own patterns around it.
Yeah, I think it's important that we really honor this body that we live in. It's really like a miracle to be a human. And we really want to nourish ourselves from within, both with not only with food, but with practices, spiritual practice. So we nourish our spirit, we nourish our mind, we nourish our body. It's so important.
Yeah, it's definitely a vessel or a portal that we're traveling in.
Exactly. And also in case because everyone is coming with some form of luggage, and in case you look at what you have been exposing your body to and how it has been able to recover from everything, it's actually a kind of miracle.
Yeah.
The way that we actually can self-heal. And when I think of this, it kind of gives me goosebumps, and I really want to do whatever I can today to make sure that that I can really support all this process of healing.
I love that because it's so true. I mean, everything in us is trying to self-heal all the time.
Always.
So we do all these things and we think it's helping, but often it's just getting in the way. And so, yeah, really learning how to support our self-healing processes is so valuable. Yeah, so that we can optimize that energy and feel really amazing in our bodies and in our lives.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Tell everyone where they can connect with you if they're looking for...
Yeah, so they can find my website. It's karolinanutrition.com. So it's very easy. You can read about me on the website, and you can always just send me an email in case there is anything they would like to share or perhaps work with me. And I also offer talks for teachers that are doing teacher trainings, so any form of trainings or retreats, to create more eating disorder or dysfunctional eating awareness, basically. It's important.
Yeah, it's so important because it's not really something still that's really talked about. It's very much, I feel like, still covered in a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Because that's actually like the essence of the disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, it's part of it, and it's something that you can hide also.
It is.
So
it's a huge relief once you start to open up about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And will you be at Tenerife? Will you be there at the beginning of the year? Will I see you?
I will actually go to Tenerife on the 15th of December, and I will spend Christmas and New Year over there, and I will be there for part of your retreat. And then I actually have a retreat of my own.
Wonderful.
From the 31st of January till the 7th of February, which is a kind of retreat where I'm trying to bring in nutritional science and kind of make it easily accessible for those that want to know a little bit more. And it will be very much about how it will, of course, be combined with yoga practice. It's about how you can bring in nutrition and healthy lifestyle changes into your life without making it too complicated.
Wonderful. I love that. So people can come and practice and then learn about nutrition.
Yeah, afternoons will be a little bit of yoga practice, but then we are going to have 2 days that are fully dedicated to, firstly, gut health, actually, and how gut and the brain axis and how it is connected and what you can do, to really keep it healthy. And then the other nutritional day will be about the healing powers of foods and also the craving mind. Like, why is my mind always craving for more?
Love that. Yeah. Can we talk about the microbacteria that's always craving for more too in our guts?
Yeah.
I heard we have more bacteria in our body than human cells.
Yes.
We're basically just a walking bag of bacteria.
Yes. You want to have the correct bacteria to walk with.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's true. Otherwise, they crave the wrong thing.
At least the correct balance.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, that sounds like an amazing retreat. And that's at the end of January. It looks like January 31st to February 7th.
Yeah.
Also in the beautiful magical bubble of the Tenerife Retreat Center. Yeah. Good. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today. It was such a gift and a pleasure to hear your story and have you share it with us and to be here as my guest. So thank
you so very much for inviting me. And it was really lovely to be able to speak about the subjects that we brought up. It was really important to me.
Yeah, thank you. It was important for me too. And I think many people will benefit and relate. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. What a beautiful and important conversation with Karolina. I am just so grateful for her and for her honesty, for her courage, her vulnerability, and the wisdom that she's gained, and her coming on to this podcast to share with us her own healing path and journey. If what we spoke about resonated with you, then I want to really extend the most heartfelt invitation for you to join me and Karolina, you can meet her there too, in Tenerife this January. We have a beautiful offering, a 1-week or 2-week retreat in Tenerife, January 3rd to the 10th, and then January 10th to the 7th. The first week is all about clearing the path, so releasing the year that's passed and reconnecting to your purpose, your practice, and dialing in to presence. The second week is going to be all about embodying your practice and integrating it into your life, taking the intention and turning it into true transformation. I am so excited about these 2 weeks. They are going to be powerful. This is not only a week of deep practice, subtle energy work using spinal energetics, and deep pranayama practice, meditation. It's a chance to reset, realign, and really step into your new year with clarity and a renewed sense of vitality. You can find all the details and sign up through the links in the show notes, or feel free to send me a DM on Instagram at Harmony Slater Official. I'm happy to send you those links. I cannot wait to see you there. The spots are filling up, so now's the time to save yours, to say yes, and treat yourself to just the most beautiful way to start a new year. And remember, whether it's through yoga, whether it's through nourishment, energy work, or community, your body is a portal. It is a gateway, and it is to be treated and respected with absolute care. It's guiding you home to your essence, to the connection with your highest, truest self. And the more we tap into the energy that's housed within our own bodies, the more profound this reality gets to be. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.